for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. A slow-speed save involving a trooper and an elderly woman.
Well, we're getting a ton of calls on you. Everybody's worried about you because you've been on and off the road.
Oh, the trooper following the 80-year-old woman who was on a power scooter. She had gone out for coffee and she got lost. The trooper says that he treated her like he hoped someone would treat his mom. And the bad, high school students in Washington State notice a big mistake at their graduation. The cover for their diploma printed with Oregon State's seal by mistake. Those covers will be replaced. And finally, the ugly. It is a goat invasion. Hundreds of animals stampeding down a hill as part of the annual release of California's Berkeley Lab. The herd is set loose once to eat grass and reduce fire hazards.
This is a Fox News Alert. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bolling. 296 of Hillary Clinton's emails while at the State Department have been released, and there's some very troubling revelations. The AP reporting now that the emails contain classified information saying, quote, Clinton received now classified Benghazi info on private email server, documents show. But recall just a couple of months ago when Hillary Clinton denied any classified information came through that email address.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. So I'm certainly well aware of the classification requirements and did not send classified material.
And then consider this. In another email we uncovered, a fully redacted email indicating more classified information. But take note of the email address, HROD17. Now, that's different from the HDR22 we had been told was the only non-official account she used ever. Here's Ms. Clinton trying to tell us she only used one.
I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two. Looking back, it would have been better if I'd simply used a second email account.
Well, in just two emails, we uncovered two lies. Now, consider this. These are just two emails out of 55,000. And more importantly, these are the twice scrubbed 55,000 emails. I can't imagine what we would find if we had access to the emails she didn't want us to see. But let's bring in Chief White House Correspondent Ed Henry, who's in New Hampshire traveling with the Clinton campaign. Ed, bring us up to date. It seems like every couple of minutes we're finding yet another email with yet another, I don't know, lie or fabrication or misrepresentation. What's the very latest?
Well, Eric, Republicans certainly jumping on this today. One presidential aspirant, Rand Paul, saying what he thinks the real story here is not what the State Department has started dribbling out, but what Hillary Clinton doesn't want the public to see. The fact that, as you just referred to, she has already deleted over 30,000 emails that she says her lawyers determined to be of a personal nature. Rand Paul, other Republicans saying they still want to see her personal server. I think the other issue, obviously, is the security of that server. Today, this revelation that the FBI, after the fact, is saying, at least that's what we're being told, that they want to classify at least one part of a 2012 email about the arrest of suspects in the Benghazi terror attacks. Interesting because, as you say, she was so firm in March at that UN press conference in saying there was no classified information at all. Her defense, and I was at her press availability just a short time ago, the second time she spoke to reporters this week alone. Clearly, she's gotten the message that she was staying away and not answering these questions for nearly a month. She addressed it by saying, look, the FBI is saying after the fact that the information is sensitive because of events that have happened since 2012. So now it should be classified. But Hillary Clinton is insisting it was not classified, deemed to be classified at the time she emailed it. Obviously, there's going to be questions about this. We'll have to find out if that's the truth, number one. And number two, more broadly, at the very least, we now know that sensitive, if not classified, but sensitive information was on that personal server. Let's not forget, former top CIA official Mike Morrell said just last week he thinks that multiple foreign governments hacked into that personal server. So this is a big question, the security of that server and what was being sent around.
Absolutely. Ed, we have a couple questions from the table. Dan just kicking it off.
I'm not exactly sure where to begin, Ed. I'm flabbergasted. If I was a press office, I would say I couldn't ever possibly defend this because, number one, we now know that, well, let's start at the beginning. She used a private email server as an official government employee, a member of the cabinet. Has anyone asked her if she would govern this way, and that would she hold government employees to the same standard that they were supposed to be under before she broke the law?
Well, we have not asked her that directly. As you know, we've had a limited number of opportunities to ask her questions, so it's been sort of rapid fire a couple of times in the last few days. That is a good question moving forward, because I think the ultimate question, we can look in the rearview mirror, we can find out what went wrong, but you're pointing to something that's going to be very important, I would suspect, in the next presidential campaign. Not just what went wrong in Benghazi or with the email specifically, how she handled it, but how she would govern because of some of the decisions she made. Because, you know, you always hear in elections, and you've been there before, that it's about the future, not about the past. The past is relevant, obviously, here, specifically about these emails. But what does it tell us about Hillary Clinton's leadership? That's going to be a big question.
Greg?
Ed, it seems like her husband, the news just keeps dribbling out. These emails keep going back to one question. In my mind, it is a question that we've been asking forever, which is who pushed the video. But doesn't it also point to an error of the Republicans and that they never really asked the question? They had opportunities to ask that question in hearings and even in debates, but they never actually asked the question. So it's not just her fault. It's also the fault of the Republicans for not seeing the real crime here and not pursuing it.
Look, go back to that important debate. Republican Mitt Romney had an opportunity. Obviously, he and others have blamed it on the moderator of the debate stepping in, but he had an opportunity to hit this issue a little harder and get to some of those facts and missed the opportunity. So that's something Republicans have to deal with. In terms of Hillary Clinton, who I'm covering now, bottom line to me is that when you look at some of the emails between she and Sidney Blumenthal, one of her outside advisors, he was not working at the State Department. One thing we've learned in the last 24, 48 hours is that there was an email the day after the Benghazi terror attacks where he said it looks like it was inspired by this internet video. Then another day, September 13th, he says, well, here in a fuller memo, we have more information, and it looks like Al-Qaeda was involved. This was a terror attack. It was planned for a month, and that the demonstrations were just a cover for a terror attack. What did she do on September 14th? Well, in fairness to her, there were two different narratives spelled out in those two different emails. She decided to go with the one that was more politically advantageous, if you will, for the Obama administration, that it was inspired by an internet video. That's what she said on September 14th at Andrews Air Force Base, even though on September 13th, Sidney Blumenthal said it was a terror attack. So, look, these are questions that have come up before. It's going to come up again.
I'll say, Julie?
So, Ed, I just want to clarify, because there seems to be some inconsistencies in what we've been hearing. She said all those weeks ago there was no classified information that she gave out. And at the time that she made that statement, it wasn't classified, right? So the classification only came yesterday or today. So it seems that she really wasn't lying about the classification part. Am I right in saying that?
Well, yes. What I would say, though, and what I would qualify is, though, that is what we are being told by former Secretary Clinton and by Josh Earnest at the White House, that it's only been classified now. I'm not saying I have any evidence to say they're wrong. I'm just saying that's what they're representing now, and that backs up Hillary Clinton's account. But do we know for sure? Do we know what was happening in real time when she sent that email? No. This is something we have to do more digging on. I think the other important point to make is we're just seeing a small sliver of her official emails. This is nearly 300 emails. As Eric said at the top, there's 55,000 pages of emails, official emails, from her time as Secretary of State. We're seeing Benghazi because of that House investigation. What did she say in these emails about Russia, about North Korea, about ISIS, about Assad in Syria? Was there other, if not classified, sensitive information? We just simply don't know yet.
Kimberly?
So, Ed, I mean, does anybody seem to be alarmed whatsoever in the mainstream media, the press corps there, about the impropriety of this? I mean, why is Sidney Blumenthal seeming to be running in some kind of secret operation the Department of State? I don't understand that. Like, why is she taking direction about what narrative they should put forward? And he's offering two stories, and then she's deciding which one to go with, and she chooses the one that, despite the information that she has to the contrary, she goes with the old story.
Okay, so on that question, an important question, you're right. I've had extensive conversations with the Clinton campaign, and in private they say, look, these were unsolicited emails from Sidney Blumenthal, and that it wasn't Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State asking him to help as an outside advisor. However, that is true that they were sent in to her. It wasn't her necessarily soliciting it. On the other hand, she forwarded some of these emails to top officials in the administration. Now, was she demanding that they follow up, or was she just saying, hey, FYI, take a look at this. This is just one piece of information. It certainly raises questions about why an outside advisor was getting this information in Libya that looks like intelligence information or something like that, while he had business dealings, we're told, in Libya.
Right.
And then what else did he send to her? Did he have other information from around the world? This is one reason why Republican Trey Gowdy has now subpoenaed Sidney Blumenthal.
Right. Dana,
I just wanted to make one point about that. In one of the emails, she actually gets something from Sidney Blumenthal. It says it's sensitive, or I don't think it says classified, but it's sensitive, and it's redacted. Right. So that means that the State Department guys went through and used a black Sharpie and made sure that none of us can read what it says. But we know what she said in response. And she says, interesting intel. The subject line is Libya. If true, we should pass on to the Israelis. To me, that is running an extra intelligence service through the State Department, through someone who does not have a clearance and who was banned from working for the administration by President Obama himself. That's the question that the White House should be asked, Ed.
Right. And you're right, that important question, because at the beginning of the Obama administration, the White House had hiring and firing, if you will, power over who the team Hillary Clinton was putting together. Sidney Blumenthal, because of past sparring matches with Obama folks and whatnot, they blocked him, you're right, from going to the State Department. So was this an end run? And what was he doing with this sensitive information? Right. And as you say, what was Hillary Clinton, more importantly, than doing it? Because, look, the bottom line is this is not about Sidney Blumenthal. It's about Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
And her judgment as Secretary of State and what it will mean if she's elected president. Right. That's going to be the big issue.
Right. Hang in there for 1 second, Ed, because remember that ad Hillary Clinton released during the 2008 primary season titled 3 a.m.? You know, the phone was ringing, the sleeping child. It was meant to ding then Senator Obama for his lack of foreign policy experience. Now, more than 4 years later, while serving as his Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton still seemed to hold the same doubts about his ability, the future president's ability, to handle a crisis. Check out the subject line of this email weeks after the Benghazi attacks. Quote, Benghazi was Obama's 3 a.m. call, and check out Hillary's instructions. Please print. Now, Ed, if there's any question about Hillary Clinton and President Obama and the animosity and that whole thing that we've been talking about for the better part of 5 or 6 years, that certainly cleared that up, didn't it?
Well,
no, I don't think
what
so.
I would caution, though,
Sorry.
I would caution that she's saying print it out. Let's read it. Is that because in that same column, they were not just now attacking President Obama in the column, but they were raising questions about her stewardship as Secretary of State? I mean, we're seeing, I would say, just a small slice of it, and anybody could take an email out of context. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying we're seeing a slice. We're making judgments about it. But I think, she may have been, because we just simply don't know, saying let's see what else is in this column, because let's not forget the Benghazi terror attacks were not just about happening on President Obama's watch. They were happening on the Secretary of State's watch, and that's why she's dealing with this now.
What am I missing here? She said Benghazi, it's President Obama's 3 a.m. It's Obama's 3 a.m.
No, but she doesn't say that. That's not necessarily her
No, the
subject
headline
line.
said that, I think.
The headline of the article
column,
did.
yeah.
So it's not necessarily her saying that.
I think we read it the other way. I think we read it as her email being sent saying subject line 3
Yeah, but it says it's forward, FW : so it's like somebody.
My understanding is that's what was the headline or the subject of Brett Stevens' column in the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the 3 a.m. call I made to her. We were supposed to meet for coffee.
Is that what they call those?
Yeah.
But she was too busy with the self-appointed czar of the Department of State, El Cid, as Monica calls him.
You want to jump in here, Jewel, with Ed?
Yeah, Ed, could I just switch tacks for a second? Amy Chosak had a very interesting column in the New York Times today. Basically, it really wasn't an attack on you, but saying, Hillary Clinton, all these people are trying to get her to answer questions. She doesn't really need the press. She doesn't feel like she needs the press. I mean, I disagree with that because she might not need them now. Believe me, having been a press secretary, one day you'll need the press and you don't want them turning on you. But what's the reaction been from people who are following her around about that? I mean, has it become kind of a joke now, or is it that sort of people are still trying to get her to answer questions? Do you think she's opening up some more? It seems like she might be, but Amy Chosak doesn't think she does.
She's starting to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
She's starting to open up. And the other day in Iowa, when I started shouting at her, and she said, well, maybe I'll come back and maybe I'll answer questions. Then she did. And then today, I shouted again. And she said, hang on, I'll be there in a minute. And she came back. Andrea Mitchell of NBC and others started firing questions. And so I think there are other reporters who are jumping in and saying that there are important questions to raise, just like there are in any presidential campaign. And maybe she's now realizing, because let's remember, it's not just reporters complaining about it. David Axelrod, a top Democrat, said on Meet the Press, she should be answering these questions.
And I wish that I could see the emails between the Clinton team when they found out that you were moving from the White House to their campaign. Here, I want to ask you one last question. Okay, so we in the press business, one of the things you try to do is bury bad news on a weekend. I could understand if it was the Hillary campaign trying to do this and bury this on Memorial Day weekend, though I would question it given that these were federal employees, including 2 Navy SEALs that died in Benghazi. I don't think this was the wisest thing to do on Memorial Day. However, can the American people trust that the State Department, which is supposed to work for all of us, is not just trying to help Hillary Clinton here by burying this on a weekend? I think that is an outrage. Well, from a professional standpoint, that is not acceptable.
Document dump Friday.
Sure. As a reporter, it's hard to prove that that's exactly what they're doing, but the timing is unmistakable. Unmistakable that it's happening right before a weekend. It's clearly something. News dumps happen, as you know, Friday before a big holiday weekend. The other point I would make is what happened Thursday night, last night. The Clinton Foundation revealed, oh, by the way, there's another $26 million, essentially, up to $26 million, I should say, in contributions to the foundation that came in the form of fees for almost 100 speeches that Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton made. And they just hadn't disclosed it before. Again, right before holiday.
Including from foreign governments. From foreign people, maybe not government, but state-sponsored companies is part of that $26 million.
Do you know what Hillary is hoping for? Right. Hillary is hoping for another big story to knock this right off the map, which has happened over the last, I think, 2 or 3 months. There's always something, as is crests.
Right.
There's another thing that happens, whether it's Baltimore or whatever. It happens, and then she coasts, and the media kind of just backs off. It's going to happen again.
By the way, we have 55,000 emails at least, or 54,702 emails we can still.
But there's nothing. I guarantee you,
and that really is the most important part of this is that all the blustering, all the digging we're doing. These are emails that have already been picked through.
Yeah, she curated this
massively already.
It's a museum of communication.
We're going to say goodbye to Ed. Thank you very much, Ed.